Welcome to our regular weekly podcast, Knowledge Empowers. As always, with you is me, Kat, 안녕하세요, and then we have Baruch.
Hello, hello, hello.
Today we don't have collage because sometimes the technology doesn't work and his internet stopped working. However, we have a guest today and her name is Katka, like my name. Katka, welcome.
Hello, hello.
And Katka's profession is HR person, and she has been in HR for many years, so really lot of experiences. And we have invited Katka here with us because last time we were discussing about bullying and we wanted to know more from the HR perspective. Katka, can you please introduce yourself a little bit to our audience?
Yes, of course, Katka. So my name is Katarina Korčeková. I worked for, I would say, two main companies in my life, big corporations, where I worked as HR partner and currently as well as a HR consultant and HR site leader. I would say altogether, I have over 10 years of experience, and as you mentioned, this topic is very interesting. And I think also it's very crucial to talk about it because from my experience, people feel scared.
And that's really a nice bridge over to the question of bullying, right? So I will first ask, because that's something we discussed last time about bullying, what is the proper procedure or what should be the proper procedure for reporting a bullying?
Yeah, I would start with what I mentioned, that people usually feel scared because they feel like maybe there will be something against them, or people will not believe them that something is happening. So this always requires a lot of understanding from that side where the person approaches. But generally in I would say the big corporations and big companies, there is always, I would say, few ways how you can approach this. You can either contact some HR person that you maybe are aware of, or you can contact your direct leader in case, of course, it's not bullying coming maybe from that direction, then maybe go and approach their leader. So leader of your leader, which you might probably also know. And then usually with the big companies, there is some type of, I would say, ethics line or phone number or email address or some way where you can submit your concern or your issue, and then there will be another person that is completely objective that will come to you and pick that case up and discuss with you what is happening. So there are usually more ways. In smaller companies, of course, it's maybe sometimes harder to stay anonymous or stay, out of, getting the information out before, maybe the person that is doing the bullying will find out. So it is then always important from the HR perspective, once the person approaches you, to really stay calm, understand the other side, talk to them, ask them questions, make sure they feel understood and they feel trusted. And then, of course, what is the second part? I would say, of course, after hearing that part, is important to start some kind of gathering of facts. So you need to, of course, to go to the other side and, ask their point of view. And then also maybe ask other people that might be involved or might be witnesses of that. So, for example, if you have, let's say I have few cases where employees felt bullied on some type of meetings because, either some colleagues or the leaders were feeling like maybe they have more power and they can show them that power. So this is how they felt. And then, if there is more people in the room, usually. Then you go and, you know, try to find out, okay, how is this person? Is this really how the person behaves? Or would you say the person behaves differently? Of course, all of this has to be done in a very discreet way, and in a very, I would say, sensitive way, because of course you don't want you're not a court, right? Now you are not the judge, so you really need to hear out everyone. And usually there is, of course, some additional person that is stepping into it. Either it's an, let's say, HR leader, or the regional leader, or there is that person from the ethics area that would come and kind of hear out everything and try to make some objective assumption. Because of course we don't want to point a finger on someone. Maybe, you know, not every bullying case proves that it was bullying, and then you don't want that person to have that sticker on their head that, okay, I'm the person that bullied, because might not always be true. I've had cases also when, you know, people felt they're being bullying, but it was just a misunderstanding, or they felt like they're not being treated right, but it was just their perception. And when, you know, the other feedbacks came in, they said, okay, but we feel like this person is maybe not completely right in that area. So it's really important to review all facts and really to discuss in a lot of details to ensure you don't harm anyone, you don't harm the person that submitted that claim, and also you don't harm the other side.
Before I move to my next questions, and thanks you for such a long answer. Now,
Sorry.
I'm literally thinking of HR, like literally everyone turns to HR.
Mhm.
Human resources, right? Help.
Yeah.
Help. Are you guys being also bullied? Or did you experience the bullying?
Mhm. I personally don't have such experience in that, I would say, regard. I know of some of my colleagues that been, I would say, maybe bullied, harassed sometimes, but I would say it would never come from somebody like direct to them or colleagues. Usually what I can say is as people reach to us very often, they also sometimes think that we are the ones making decisions, that usually we are just, you know, the person, like it's called kill the messenger, right? So delivering a message that is maybe not nice or not popular, the person doesn't want to hear it, but you are literally there because you are there to support not only the company and the business, but also you are there to support the employee and help them to go through some maybe complicated part in their life, or, you know, some changes that will come. And this sometimes creates a situation that that might lead to bullying, and that the person then, you know, take some actions towards their person. So I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to expose anyone. But yeah, sometimes it happens, but more, I would say, from like the other part than from maybe from our direct colleagues, because usually, and this is what I would expect from HR, that they are the leaders in this, right? That HR is leading the way, and they're showing how to behave and what is okay and what is not okay. And so far in my career, I was happy with, or I was lucky with getting such leadership mostly.
Thank you. My next question is, what are the usually cases leader, like managers, approach you with? But if we focus on the topic of bullying, like, can a manager be bullied?
Yes, they can. And I think I've been approached multiple times with, I would say, different types of, let's say, questions or claims. I would say one of them is when person felt, as I mentioned already, being bullied by somebody in their leadership. Usually it would happen with somebody who is maybe a little bit higher in their leadership, and they felt like they maybe want to show their power. And then a few times I've been approached by leaders that they felt that somebody in their team is bullying somebody in their team. So they felt like, okay, I feel like there's something not right here. Feel that this person acts a certain way, and then the other person, I see that is, there's something, or the person is, I would say, has a bullying behavior towards more people, and is showing that like through the team meetings and in the like team, in the team as such, and then it doesn't make good environment, and people were leaving because of that, because they didn't want to be part of that team where somebody was bullying everyone or more people. So this is what we've been discussing, like how should that person be approached. Of course, firstly, we started simply by, look, you need to talk to that person, you need to explain the person what you feel what you think the person is doing and what you feel is harming the team, and that this is not an acceptable behavior in a company like this, and that we have it either in our core DNA, and our culture is set the way that we don't bully, we don't harass people, we are all equals, and that this is not something that person can be continue doing.
I'm gonna jump here a little bit because you've mentioned also when like dealing with bullying, you need to have some proof. And if I take this particular case, manager observed a certain behavior, right? Not 100% sure. And even though employees were leaving, did any of those employees who were leaving actually stated why? Like just so the manager could have some proof to be able to deal with that employee?
They did not tell it to the leader. They were afraid. But how we found out is that at that time we were doing such called exit interviews. So one of the HR persons sat down for 30 minutes, which everybody that was leaving, and was asking certain set of questions. And how we found out is that that person came to me and she was like, look, Katka, I found out this. Like there is a team there, and there are people leaving because they said they have a very unhealthy atmosphere in the team, that there is a person that is bullying everyone. And it really was like 5 people leaving and stating the same. So we actually came back to that. And before I had a chance to approach the leader, he approached me. So we started to speak, and I was like, yeah, I was just yesterday speaking to my colleague, and she told me this and that she actually was doing. Because when it's one person, you're okay, fine, I write it down. And then once it's like a 5th person in a row of 4 or 5 months, then you're like, oh, okay, this is weird. I've had this happening. And you go back to the documents and you look at it and you're like, oh, okay. So she put it all together. That's how we kind of connected, and that's how it happened.
What could be the consequences for such an employee? Is it even like being fired or?
Well, there is a certain set of steps, of course, that you need to follow based on our labor code. So you can't just fire a person. But firstly, of course, you need to kind of have some heads up and inform the person. If the behavior continues, you issue, I would say, warning letter, and you continue with that. You continue monitor the behavior, and if the behavior continues, you issue second warning letter. And because this is written in usually in the companies have some set of rules that they follow, and also there is a working order which usually includes this part, so it can be considered as a as a violation of the working order. So then you kind of like create the warning letter, and then of course, if the situation and you know all legal conditions of course are fulfilled, yes, it can lead to a termination. I would say in this particular case, it led to the employee resigned themselves. So it wasn't like, okay, now we will follow all these steps, but at the end it ended up okay. The person, I would say, didn't took it as an opportunity to improve, but took it as the feedback took it very bad, and the employee said, okay, I'm gonna leave, I don't want to be here anymore. So so this is also how the situation ends, right? It's not always that the company has to take an action, but sometimes even the employee takes action, whatever reason they have, of course. It's their right, and sometimes they say, okay, I don't want to be here anymore and I'm going, and that's also a possibility.
And can I ask, Kate already asked, what would be the common reason for manager to report to HR regarding bullying, but what are the most common cases overall that you get reported during your career?
I mean, the reasons usually are that the person is constantly, I don't know how to say it in English, but constantly finding someone, you know, and making their making their life miserable in some way, making them feel smaller, making them feel that they're like not good enough, and you know, just trying to show them that I'm better than you. And I mean, you know, so this is usually what is most of the time happening. And then the second thing is that which is unfortunate, that it happens, but it happens that sometimes the leader show their power, and those from my perspective are not leaders that should be there, right? In a company that has right values. So there should be not a leader that is bullying others, and not at all their own employees or reportees, or you know, doing things and telling things that would make them feel like they are stupid or not good enough for the job.
And since you mentioned that many people are scared to report bullying, is it usually in these cases, like where there is a manager who bullies the employees?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay, and what would be your suggestion, your advice to such employees? I mean, if they feel scared, what would be the message from you?
I would say fight for your right, because no company will fire you for you know, stating or submitting something that is harmful happening to you. No company will fire you for that. And if you, and now you know, I worked for these two big companies, so I can compare it from there. Of course, I don't know how it works in smaller companies, but usually there is always somebody objective that will look at the thing, and there is a promise that, you know, they will not take anything against you. And I've seen such situation, you know, when we have these cases coming in. I've been involved in some kind of the investigations, and there is always a person that kind of is responsible for that and will follow up with you and will explain to you. Sometimes not even like they don't even tell your boss if it's not needed, right? So it depends really, like what is the chain and who needs to know. So really you don't have to be worried that somebody will come to you and tell, oh, you submitted this on that person, that is really bad from you. No, that will not happen. This is completely confidential and handled very sensitively. So I would say don't worry. If you really feel like something is happening to you, please do let us know, or please do let know somebody you trust, and then the person can help you to find the right way. you always need to make this first step, because then it will never change.
That reminded me a case of exactly what Katka said, that approach someone you know or you trust. And my friend approached me, and he was 1 year at the company, or year and a half, and he was expecting actually a promotion. And what happened when he had one-on-one and he had new manager, she was sitting there with HR and the prepared paper for resigning. And she wanted him to resign. And he was just looking at her. And the unfortunate case was that the poor girl from HR was a very fresh new person on the position, so lacking experience, and a manager like overpowering or overusing her powers. Mm-hmm. And he approached me and I asked him, did you sign the paper? He said, not yet. I'm like, good. And I asked him, do you want to stay in the company? He said, yes. So I'm like, okay, go to the upliner. Is your upliner foreigner, Slovak, etc.? Foreigner. Go to your upliner. If you would receive a similar behavior, then go to upline. And then I said, then here are names of HR people that I know are very long on the position. They have tons of experience. You would get a different treatment. And I told him the same, fight for your power, like fight for your rights. You didn't do anything wrong. You performed very well. Like if you really expect your promotion and instead of that, someone is offering you resignation, it's like, it clashes, right? And so he did approach the upliner, who was very shocked. And then he had to sit with the manager and the HR person because none of them were even following the procedure. It was not even legally correct. And so at the end, how the whole thing concluded was the manager had to go through series of training, because not necessarily means she was a bad manager, but she just was lacking a specific training. Same was valid for the HR person. And actually, my friend was moved to a different team where he was able to shine and actually became the leader of a certain geographic area. And he had like amazing results. So approach your network really to help you out, someone you trust, because that doesn't necessarily means you need to leave the company, right? Because if you're happy in the company with everything else, just fight for your rights. I really, really like that.
Katka, if I may add, since you mentioned the training, all of these kind of like bigger companies have their own training to inform and train the people on what is bullying, what they should not do, and how to prevent bullying, and also how to report bullying. So this is also another source that we are using. And as you said, leader had to go to a training. Every leader and every employee that even joins a company that has such training have to do it at the beginning. And I wish they had it at schools, because then we would teach that already the little children that bullying is not okay, and that maybe, it would help them in the future.
I love this as an ending. So I would actually close it here. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And we wish bullying would be taught at school. It would be a perfect world. So with that, 수고하셨습니다.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for having me.
This podcast represents our own opinions, experience, and our own ideas. We do not represent any official statement from our employers, and this is not their official channel representing the company.